says he's experienced what Rainbow just had. Whoa. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to round number 1 of our January 14th FFA Casual Tournament. We are going to be featuring Rainbow Ideology, Philothanic filling in, insert coins here, and Ich Benaikanto, who I'm just going to call Ich for the rest of the tournament because I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And we are still being joined by Blues rather than King Morgan today. So welcome, Blues.
Hello.
And for all of our non-live viewers, this is our second attempt at getting started this time. We had some technical difficulties with one of our players being unable to found the first time round, so we're just giving it a shot again. Looks like it's going to open in exactly the same way. Philothanic choosing the same amount of debt to go for the exact same found location. We were using a set map seed this time rather than a random map, so that all of our different rounds that are happening at this moment are being played on the exact same map. Looks like everyone was able to get on the board this time. Insert coins here, having to go for a slightly different position as Rainbow Ideology took it from him. That's unfortunate for him, but just the way it is with our technical difficulties, unfortunately. So how do you like everybody's founds right now, Blues?
They all seem pretty reasonable. They generally have good access to resources. The scientists are a bit farther away from Silicon, but actually I guess Rainbow Ideology isn't too far away.
He seems to be doing all right. I mean, the Silicon, it's very strange. It's like just far enough away that you don't really want to put glass there unless you've got teleportation in my mind, because you've got pirates and magnetic storms available this map. I feel that's pretty important. Like that's a pretty significant distance. You can't quite bridge it by just placing buildings all the way over there. So I'm kind of curious what's going to end up happening. You don't even really want to quarry it because, of course, they're low tiles. And you really want to avoid that as a scientist to keep your claim efficiency high, in my opinion. But we'll just have to see what they all decide with later on. Our two scientists and our scavenger have gotten upgraded. Expansive is going to be last to get up there. No real big surprise. Expansive always a little slow to get going. I do find it interesting that Rainbow Ideology is choosing to kill our water price almost immediately.
And that's going to really hurt Ich here. Not sure if he's going to be able to scrape together the cash, though. With aluminum and carbon high, he should be able to. Just a bit slower with so much water.
Yeah, I actually think Ich is probably going to be okay, mostly because, as you said, aluminum is a bit expensive, and that's going to really help him out since he's got 2 tiles committed to aluminum. And that's one of the reasons I actually really like his found position, is the fact that he's got aluminum adjacent to his base. So that's pretty fantastic. He'll be able to rotate that if necessary. He could swap into food if aluminum crashed out. Things are looking pretty decent for him right now, I'd say. Just a little unfortunate to get hit by that nuke.
Yeah. With those nukes available, I maybe wonder if going in that water silicon patch might have been better, just give him a little bit more flexibility with water, but definitely having the aluminum like that is a nice advantage.
Yeah, I can definitely understand the argument with nukes in play for sure. I always like having aluminum next to my base because it's such a fast start out of the gate to just be able to gather all that aluminum immediately. I mean, $80 aluminum. With these scientists on the board, that should really be no surprise. That usually leads to a pretty high aluminum price because they always like to start with the steel triangle if they can get away with it. And it's really should be working out really well here for Ich.
Interesting seeing that Philothanic started off by claiming a geotherm. He decided to go into 2 solar panels instead.
Yeah, that's different. I mean, Silicon was at a nice about $9 price for a while there, so it's definitely an argument in favor of a couple of solar panels, but
certainly a quicker build as well.
Yeah, that's true. It is going to be a lot faster to build. Well, in particular, because solar panels themselves build faster, and of course, not having to send the building all the way across is also going to be a pretty significant difference. That said, I can definitely understand wanting the geotherm with steel down at $30 right now.
Yeah, and power's definitely important right now with a power colony. Power's still rising. Ich and Philothanic being the only ones with significant amounts of power down. I'm worried about Ich not having his power defended, though. That really should be getting attacked. He's getting close to making power money.
Yeah, and Philothanic's got a spy down on top of that with Black Market coming up right now. Power surge immediately. Oh, Ich. Man, this hurts to watch. That is painful.
An expansive HQ
A
has
nuke
been
and a power
upgraded.
surge landing almost simultaneously. I don't really like Itch's electrolysis reactor placement here. And I think he might get in trouble with it, especially considering all these nukes and just all these black market effects landing on him. Just the single reactor that you can't even swap the aluminum around to help out if you want to. Ugh, it just hurts a little bit.
I mean, you do see that he's basically only getting that. Well, he was only getting that 0.05 oxygen of actual money from it.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I always argue that never put a single building down unless you are like an extremely high level player. Never put a single production building down. And it's even more true for life support, as you were pointing out. This idea that you have to pay through the debt first that you're actively gaining during your production before you can actually make any money. Just makes it so that single life support buildings really, really, really don't benefit you at all. I mean, all this said, it just still made it up to HQ level 4 first. I mean, that'll tell you how well that aluminum's worked out for him this game, I think. That has to be where most of his lead has come from.
Definitely. I do wonder about if maybe him continuing to push so quickly is going to keep him as a target, even though his long-term position's kind of a bit compromised with all these nukes already.
Yeah, I do wonder if it would have been better. He's making a transition into glass kilns right now, which seems okay. Aluminum's at 37. So
But he
that's
also
pretty reasonable,
doesn't have
although
any
silicon's at
aluminum
71.
anymore.
Yeah, that is the concern, is he's now going to have to buy aluminum. That said, I'm not super worried about it because Insert Coins here is really making an effort to kill that market. And on top of that, his production is so limited, it seems he'll almost be forced to keep selling that aluminum down in order to stay in it. So I'm still kind of okay with the decision. Because, I mean, as you can see, 5.25 aluminum a second from Insert Coins here. Just absolutely insane. Oh, Thinking Machines for 24,000 is going to be an important auction. This is why I was worried about this glass, this high silicon prices, keeping these kilns from becoming active immediately, it seems. I don't even know if they're going to be auto-supplied. Looks like they're not. That's going to be a problem. Gotta leave auto-supply on. Okay, well, we had the patent auction. We do have a couple patent labs on the board at this point. Philithanic got one operational. It looks like a farm going to be going after superconductor, it would appear. Meanwhile, Insert Coins here, he also is after some power savings. He's going to be headed toward perpetual motion. And Philithanic, he's just going to blast through his debt when day comes. It's going to be exciting. He's going to be making so much money.
Right. He was in B debt going into HQ3. Now he's in a position to actually make power money. This is potentially a big swing in his favor.
Yeah, Rainbow Ideology does have a few panels down as well at this point. You can see all these guys. We created an interesting situation here, right? Silicon was a little difficult to get a hold of. On top of that, I'm pretty sure people nuked out Insert Coins here Silicon in particular is what we saw, I do believe.
Yeah.
And so that's made silicon very, very expensive, and glass is kind of expensive, so that's even more silicon consumption. It made getting all these solar panels down quite difficult for our players, and I'm a bit surprised we didn't see more geothermal plants coming out.
I think
Because
Rainbow
of the way
Ideology
steel is
did.
working.
Rainbow Ideology did a good job of using core samples with all this sand next to him, getting this nice silicon triangle. He's continuing to sell down silicon right now, which is a bit of a problem, but eventually that becomes glass, and he should be in a good position from there.
Yeah, I agree. That is very keen use of core samples is what I'm going to go with. Not something that you typically see, so I really like the move, and I'm kind of pulling for Rainbow Ideology to be successful with it. Unfortunately, though, you can look at this power price. It's decreasing by literally $5 a second right now. That's how flooded this market is. Philithanic's just raking in cash with it. Even with the $52 price, is still making $835 a second after paying through water, oxygen, fuel, and food.
Yeah, it's definitely a mistake that no one ever froze out those superconductor solar flare panels.
Yeah, because this is an unnecessary amount of power production by definition. Little curious about Philithanic going after a $28,000 claim. That's extremely expensive for him. as he is still making some money on power at the moment. So instead, it's going to be going 32 over to Ichibanai Kanto. I have no idea. I want to say the whole name. I have no idea if it's correct. Pleasure Dome, finally. Always good to see those Pleasure Domes start coming out. A lot of players at this kind of moderate level that we're going to be seeing here today don't really pay attention to the Pleasure Dome, and so you'll end up with one player just dropping it down and it's being like, oh yeah, $300 a second. This is a good tile.
Well, Philithanic going to a Pleasure Dome of his own, so...
Yeah, we're going to have a little competition over it this time, which is good to see. By the way, I do apologize to both Blues and the stream that I'm going to be coughing this whole time. I'm still not over this illness. I know it's been 2 weeks now, trust me. I'm more tired of it than you guys. Okay, well, Carbon has actually rocketed up in price, which really shouldn't be too surprising. I am a little surprised our scavenger didn't go into a third Carbon tile in particular. After his initial one got nuked, could have maybe added that additional tile to help keep this Carbon price down, make it easier for him to keep moving into buildings. That said, it's going to be a decent source of money for him moving forward for the time being.
And I definitely would have liked to see another Carbon claim, because you can make slant drilling work pretty well for you, but that's definitely risky. And if your high gets nuked, you're still in a bad spot with only 3 Carbon a second.
Exactly, that's the issue, and we don't even see slant drilling coming out at the moment. Unfortunately, this patent lab is still left idle. A lot of our patent labs left idle with chemicals getting as expensive as they are at the moment. Are any of them operational, in fact?
Slant drilling just got started by Itch.
Ah, good. Well, he definitely needs it, I would say. Slant drilling is always a nice counterplay, as you were saying, to some of these underground nukes that have been coming out, but still a little risky to be running for so long on so little Carbon as our scavenger.
A scientific HQ has been upgraded.
Rainbow Ideology really struggling through his debt this time. He's bought up a significant amount of stock before hitting HQ5, and all that indicates to us is that he was worried about losing this game very, very quickly. And so instead, he's had to play it very, very safe. He's been very, very late to upgrading. That said, it's allowed him more time to use some of these core samples, extend out some of his water, and now he will be able to benefit from hopefully some higher value tiles because of his late upgrades.
Congratulations.
Okay. $16,000 adrenaline boost. I am actually quite nervous about at this point. I'm not seeing any production for Itch that really screams, hey, you need to drop an adrenaline boost on this and power it out. It's gonna go onto the fuel and oxygen, immediately power surged. And that's basically just a free $16,000 of debt. Gone.
And with 126k already, that's not something that feels like he could afford.
Absolutely. Quite nervous about that. I do feel like we're going to have to be seeing some off-worlds out of these players if they want to close this game out at this point. Even with all the debt people have, our 2 high debt players have both secured in plenty of stock, so they cannot be easily acquired. And we're just not seeing a whole lot of pressure from the colony that you can truly use to make cash. That's what often happens with a power colony, is all of that money kind of comes right in the middle of the game. We saw Philithanic grab up a significant amount of it this time, but then power is such a fickle resource. There's no constant pressure on anything that says, this is going to be nice cash you can use to move into the late game. And that almost always means we end up needing an off-world transition eventually. Nobody's really after it just yet, though. H is down in that D level, unfortunately. That means he's going to be locked out from his scavenger black market bonus. And he's looking like he's just in a fair amount of trouble. Got a lot of Carbon saved up. Could be looking at the off-world market, but without being able to buy goon squads, without being able to buy mutinies, without being able to buy power surges, things are still looking quite risky for him.
He did at least pick up thinking machines from that auction, but that's not going to be enough.
No, absolutely not. Well, we were talking about how fickle power is. You can see now it's rocketing back up quite effectively during this nighttime phase. Looks like everybody got out of power while it was $1 except for Itch. And I guess Insert Coins here actually does have a geotherm and one solar panel still operational, but you can see this price just moving on up. Be interesting to see how the players handle this one moving forward.
Methods continue to improve.
More and more silicon price increases. A little bit surprising to me, given Rainbow Ideology's position with this triangle he set up earlier. Bit unfortunate for him that they're all low, but thankfully as a scientist, you can still work with that. Quite surprised to actually see electronics factories coming out on top of these guys.
Although one is an off-world.
That's true. We do have one off-world. Still locking yourself out from just some quick, easy cash with the silicon. A little bit of a concern for me. He's still making plenty of money off of the electronics factories, don't get me wrong, especially with carbon scrubbing active and of course not having to pay the silicon price for them at all. But I always like grabbing up that easy money personally.
Especially because power is still sticking pretty high, and without any silicon access, he's going to have trouble getting into power. Maybe it's not such an issue. Philithanic has moved into some more power and he will kill that. Although he's only in 2, so...
But you see the transition now. I mean, that just kind of indicates a mistake, especially without nanotechnology. Probably a rather huge mistake out of our players. Every single one of them has cleared out their patent labs, and nobody picked up nanotechnology. Every single one, yeah, every last one, it would appear. We actually have a wind turbine that is hologram to appear as a patent lab at the moment.
Successful.
Everyone moving into their own off-worlds.
That's good. We talked about how that transition was almost certainly going to be necessary. And as you can see, electronics, really the primary thing left on the board you can make cash from. Glass and chems are both still a bit pricey. Chems, you can make some money here and there, but iron is so expensive, it's going to mean Insert Coins here is maybe struggling a bit with steel. They're not effective at all right now. His iron mines are where it's at. Steel going to be profitable for our scientists, but electronics really king of this map at this moment.
The engineers have advanced our production. Look at all the money.
Oh, this is interesting. We've got a nice little mutiny from Itch down onto, I believe this was Insert Coins here. Yeah, Silicon Quarry. That's going to be working out quite well for him for an extended period. He was pulling in an awful lot of silicon there. I always like seeing mutinies where you can actually grab up those adjacency bonuses.
One thing I didn't notice before now, Insert Coins here actually grabbing up a triangle of carbon down here.
Now to annoy your rival.
Yeah, I had seen that. I was a little concerned about it. I never like to see that sort of thing out of a non-scavenger player. It's just, it floods the carbon market so effectively. And you can see at this point that Insert Coins here, he is collecting. Let's go ahead and confirm. I do believe we're on Insert Coins here now. He's collecting 4.62 carbon a second, more than he needs. Some of it being consumed by these electronics factories, or trying to be. But you can see that not having these tiles, extra tiles adjacent to his base, is really, really, really hurting Insert Coins here right now. He's collecting all this carbon, it's costing fuel, not a huge deal for him right now, especially because I do believe he has water engine, yes. But still a small thing, and these are 3 tiles that he just simply can't rotate effectively.
Center is online.
And instead of having his electronics factories adjacent to his base, where they can be easily supplied with all of this aluminum, carbon, and silicon that they require, they're separated from the base on top of the aluminum, and things are just looking quite difficult for Insert Coins here to actually have access to his money. Definitely a concern. That said, he did pull in probably his last significant haul of cash from carbon just now, as Itch has moved into his second off-world market, and that just quickly bumped up the price for Insert Coins here, which he desperately needs right now in order to compete with Philithanic.
It is interesting that Philithanic decided to get aggressive against Insert Coins here in particular. Insert Coins here with a lot of cash, picking up. He's in a bit of a better spot right now, but see how that works out.
I don't know if getting aggressive at this exact moment was the right call, just because There are a fairly large number of reasons. One of them being that Itch has 2 off-world markets down. One of them just got taken away, but of course with thinking machines, Itch can simply be counter-aggressive and will come out on top with plays like that. For another thing, insert coins here, he only has 1 off-world market. His territory is a bit strange, which we just got done discussing, and so not necessarily the best pickup, even if you are successful in bringing down insert coins here. Meanwhile, Itch still seems to be in a pretty solid position as we move into the very late stages of the game, with power surges and mutinies being so important against these off-world markets and thinking machines still in his pocket.
We have a hard-to-come-by land claim available to the highest bidder.
Man, Oxygen, you guys. Nobody was prepared for the off-world markets. Nobody apparently has their Oxygen upgraded significantly. Let's check. We got a little bit from Rainbow. A little bit from Philithanic, a little more from Philithanic, that's good. And just a little bit from Itch. Nothing it looks like from insert coins here just yet. He's working on it now. Always got to be ready when you're making that transition into the off-world markets.
The black market is open for business.
For whatever resource is valuable to suddenly jump up in price on world. Never really good to see a situation like this occurring. Now, our players actually have to be a bit careful with their launches right now because we have a lot of things hanging out in the high 20s. And you want to be careful about exactly how much money you're handing to other people and make sure you're launching the correct resource when so many of them are about equally profitable.
What a payout. I hate those filthy bandits.
How often do you really see iron as the most profitable launch? I am wondering about what Rainbow Ideology is doing here with auto-selling iron.
I would usually call that a mistake, but I can't be 100% sure. You know, I would like to see, I think, a transition out of these. I mean, even with this dust storm going on right now, you could transition into food, you could transition into reactors. Water is just not very expensive at the moment, and it would be good to see our players make some use of that. All right, Itch and Rainbow have finally started up against each other. Itch has the advantage in cash at the moment, but Rainbow got a little bit of a boost from Insert with this one. Not sure about that call from Insert. He was actually doing okay in the race against Philithanic, but he needed every last scrap of cash he could get.
Right, it definitely feels a bit too close for him to be devoting that 40-something thousand to that.
Absolutely. Very, very even race here between Itch and Rainbow, but that means Itch should be the one to come out on top. For one thing, Rainbow, because he got a little bit of help and didn't have to pay about 50 for that one stock, he's going to have to pay a little extra for the final 5. And on top of that, Rainbow still in very significant amounts of debt. We discussed this much earlier with the potential power problems of not transitioning into silicon at the right moment, not being able to build solar panels. You can see that's come back to be true. Itch stayed in the wind turbines the whole time, was very committed to them, has almost no debt. Rainbow, huge amount of debt, means Itch can make the buy at pretty much any moment if he would like to. And I would highly recommend it, as it seems like it's an important thing to do before you get bought out yourself. There you are. Rainbow Ideology going to be our first one knocked out of the game.
Meanwhile, Philithanic and Insert Coins here kind of both stalling out a bit. They haven't been making all that much money lately, so now they're just not in a very good position to fight back against the Itch.
Absolutely. You could see that Insert Coins here was being very split-minded about how he was handling the situation. First we had him buying stock, then he put down an off-world and he was like trying to get aggressive against Itch, but not really super successful with the black market. He also has all this debt, and of course the slightly weak territory we talked about earlier. You can actually see farms are what are so far separated from his base right now. We've not seen enough pirates and magnetic storms. I'm just throwing it out there.
Haven't seen any magnetic storms.
People don't value the magnetic storm. It drives me crazy. The magnetic storm's so good. Anyway, but because these two players have been so split in how they've been handling the situation, rather than focused on one particular objective at a time, it's really cost them and kind of let Itch just start running away with the entire game. Well, Philithanic gets to his purchase. And now that Itch knows which target he needs to go after, and all that stock has been freed up, he's just going to be getting started on Philithanic right now. And Philithanic, he's going to need some brilliant territory and some strong black market hits in order to pull back into this one, I'd say. Down one off-world, weaker subsidiary that he acquired later. Things aren't looking good. Okay, power a bit expensive again. Water is actually becoming quite expensive. Kind of curious. Yeah, that's just a lot of straight consumption going on out of these two. Both of them drinking up that water, it would appear.
Nature really benefiting from that with the slant drilling.
Yeah, slant drilling is just absolutely fantastic for him at this point. It was nice for him to pick that up with all those underground nukes he had to deal with earlier in the game. So a strong move. I'd say Itch should have this one pretty easily from here, barring some kind of miracle or, you know, a meteor hitting Itch's house. But we'll wait and see. We'll make sure. There's always the chance off-world launches are going to be poorly handled. There's always the chance that we are going to see some successful black market hits, but it looks like Philothanic unfortunately ran right into a goon squad with that mutiny, and that's going to secure everything for Itch. We're just waiting for him to close it out now. Philothanic throws out the GG, but of course he's not going to concede here, as time is one of our tiebreakers. It's now, thankfully, our least important tiebreaker, and now that we're basically done with this one, I do want to discuss that for a moment. It looks like there's been a slight change in scoring this time, which I super heavily support. In terms of how we're going to handle the final round. So in the past, we've just gone based off of score acquired through the whole tournament, combined with tiebreakers for time, right? In the last round, everybody was kind of thrown into a seeded finals, as it were, but they still got the same reward for winning, no matter which final they had managed to get into, right? They just got their 1 point. That's no longer the case. Now, all the players who are in the top of our final round they're going to be our top 4. Next 4 players, they're our next 4, right? The next 4 players after that in the next final, they're our next 4, so on and so forth from there. And each player who wins the round automatically is in the top of their group of 4, right? So whoever gets into our absolute finals, very, very top, based on seeding, they're going to be on this channel, by the way. And if whoever wins from that group of 4, they're our victor. They win, right? They succeed. And then the next 3 will use the next 3 spots based on how many games they've won and how fast they won their games, if they end up tied. And then it keeps going from there, right? Out of the next group of 4, whoever wins that group, they're our 5th place player. They win. They beat all the rest of those. And then the next 3 are ranked once again based on their previous victories. So on and so forth from there. So it's really nice. Basically, it means that we've just got a whole bunch of heats ahead of time, and then everybody ends up in one final. It's just some finals are ranked higher than others based on previous seeding. So while I was doing all that, Itch went ahead and cleaned up this round. Good work on him. I was nervous for him for quite a while there. He was in that D level of debt, but managed to pull things back around. So do you have anything else you want to talk about from that round, Blues?
Not in particular. It's just interesting how Itch managed to make that comeback from what felt like a pretty weak position with his carbon, with being in so much debt. But I think Philothanic's just mistake in going after insert coins here really opened up that opportunity. Itch going for 2 quicker off-worlds and cleaning things up.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. There were potentially quite a few mistakes there. That's to be expected. I mean, this is why it's the casual tournament rather than having, you know, somebody like Blues in there so you can just murder everybody. Is maybe not enough black market. We saw a lot of nukes early, but then they kind of stopped, right? We had everybody found a nuke and used it, right? But then they stopped after a while, and it was a very similar thing in a lot of black market. It would kind of come in spurts as everybody was thinking about it, but then other things would start happening. Players would get distracted, maybe start becoming less focused, and then suddenly the black market would stop. That would let people pull back into the game. We had a lot of things going on in the mid game that people needed to keep track of. And that's kind of where Itch started to rise to the top, right? Because it seemed like he was managing to keep track of everything he needed to, and everybody else was just missing 1 or 2 things here, or maybe making kind of a poor decision on what they wanted to focus on. And they ended up falling behind because of it. Okay, well,